Hello and welcome. I'm back today with a very special guest, Beccy Henderson. She is the Director of Strategy and Content from Smart Digital. Hello, Beccy.
Hi, Dan. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. So we are going to get some insights and tips and tricks. You very kindly agreed to come on and talk to us about all things hybrid. And today, specifically, you're going to talk about hybrid event planning and logistics. So hand over to you, Beccy. Be interesting to get some tips and tricks from you.
Great. Well, so based on some of the experiences that we are working, or events we're working on now and events we've worked on over the past year, the first thing I just wanted to talk about is conference tracks. So what we're finding is that people need to really focus on planning for a different online audience to their live or on-site audience, and really make sure that their online audience is core to the heart of the event. So you don't necessarily need to stream everything that you're doing live, and actually you can divide your audience in different ways and really think about how people engage differently. You might want to, for example, have one track that is a streamed live track, which is full of keynotes and really high value content. And then you might film all the rest of your content and divide it up in different ways to use in the months to 3 months after the show online. In chunks that make it accessible to your audience, but also commercially successful for you as a business. So I think, and in terms of how you plan your conference tracks, I think, again, really think about how people engage with content online. So an example is if you were to book a Peloton class, you would choose it. Most people, yes, yeah. If one did book a Peloton class, one of the key things that you search for is the length of the class, because you know you've got 10 minutes or you've got an hour. So they have classes ranging from 5 minutes to an hour. And again, the content that you produce for online audiences should be like that. So you really want to think about how people are going to choose it, how to make it easily searchable, and having different types of session length and style so that people can find something for them.
Sorry to jump in there. It's interesting that you say that at the beginning as well, because obviously we don't just want to replicate everything in the physical event, because also we need to provide an incentive for people to turn up if they're in that location. I mean, obviously international it's different, but we want to make sure that you've got boots on the ground, because ultimately we're trying to drive value for exhibitors as well, who are mostly going to be there. So would you agree with that sort of
totally
strategy?
And actually I think a good way of doing that is actually to interview speakers. You can remotely but film them in advance of the event.
Sure.
And just get a few highlights from what they're going to be doing on site, so that you actually just whet people's taste buds to come to the live event. And again, when you're actually on site, you can interview speakers and just again get a few top tips for a couple of minute interview, and then put that out after the event and just create this sort of rolling program that keeps people engaged but doesn't take away from the experience of being actually at the event itself.
So you were then talking about session length and style, and obviously that's important to make sure that you mix it up, that people aren't just expecting exactly the same each time. And I guess the subject matter, and whether it's a panel debate or it's a one-on-one interview, I guess that makes a difference.
Yes, definitely. And I think you can really focus on actually keeping people interested by having, I mean, longer panels tend to be a bit better because you've got to give everyone a chance to talk. I really don't like panels that have too many speakers in, because then nobody gets enough time to talk. And they can be challenging to manage remotely as well.
Actually, on that point, what do you think is the optimum amount of people on a panel in your experience?
Personally, I'd ideally say 4.
Right.
Potentially 4 and a moderator. And we've done some recent ones recently that may have a somebody signing as well. So you might have somebody that's there that's not actually
accessibility.
But ideally, I would say don't go that much higher than that. I think sometimes people, we've gone up to 8 or more.
Right.
But that can be quite difficult to manage, especially online. I think it's easier when you're actually on the stage. So, and I also just mentioning stages, I was going to just say about thinking about the theatre and how it works on film. So if you look at something like a TED Talk, they have an audience in the studio and they have somebody giving a speech, but the whole thing is designed so it looks good on film. And I think when you plan a conference, if you know you're going to film it, you really do need to think about how accessible it's going to be to film from the start, because sometimes you can have a really cool theatre that feels great on site, but it's very difficult to film because it's got too much going on behind the speakers, or for all sorts of reasons.
Yeah, no, that's very useful. And I think the final tip on hybrid event planning and logistics was going to be around production.
That's right. Yes. So I was going to say, consider your production partner carefully, and really try to bring them in from the very beginning, so that they know what your objectives are and they can help you to solve problems and to come up with the right solutions. Especially when you're doing things like bringing remote speakers to a screen on stage, and remote speakers are going to be talking to live speakers in the room. You need the on-site audiences to hear everything. You also then need to stream live out of the theatre, so you need to manage the audio, and you need to think about. You need a partner who can really think about those issues, but potentially not just a technical partner, because you really need your partner to work with you as an extension of your team, and to work with all the speakers, especially the remote speakers, to get them ready, all those sorts of things. So I would say try to get a production partner involved if they're going to be involved right at the start, rather than planning the event and then saying, "Can you come and do this for us?"
Yeah, or trying to shoehorn it into the internal team.
Yes, that also happens.
Which I guess we've all seen as well, because it's interesting because we spend a lot of time, sometimes money, on onboarding, recruiting some really good speakers, and on occasions that they're sort of left to their own devices. So really important actually that you bring an experienced pair of hands on board.
Definitely. I think for all the virtual events we do, we rehearse with every single speaker. We send them guidelines, we send them videos, we help them plan their filming, their technical setup. We make sure they can get onto the platform in advance, so they know exactly what to expect through the event itself. I think that's really important.
Sure. Thank you. So Becky Henderson, Director of Strategy and Content at Smart Digital. Fantastic advice for hybrid event planning and logistics.
Thank you very much, Dan.